Alrighty, you guys, no BS. We are coming up on a major, major turning point. We are going through some major change right now. I'm sure many of you can probably feel it. The pressure is on a little bit, and there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on, and I'm gonna kind of break it all down for you so we can understand the lessons behind so many of the transits we're going through right now that I think collectively we're all experiencing, or most of us are experiencing in one way or another. If you're new here, welcome. I do weekly horoscopes. I also do new and full moon videos and monthly horoscopes. So basically, I blend self-development and spiritual intelligence into astrology. So if that is your vibe, make sure to hit the bell before you leave. These weekly videos are a little bit more like podcast chill style, but we have a lot to talk about. Okay, we have a lot to talk about this week. We are in a time, a very massive evolutionary portal right now, and it can feel tense. It can feel like you are kind of, in between a rock and a hard place, or feeling kind of this push and pull somewhere in your life. This need to kind of expand, but also this need to kind of contract, especially with the Jupiter-Saturn square we've been experiencing, Neptune also being in the mix, and then more Saturn squares coming this week. Right now, it feels like a lot of people, I think, are kind of contemplating what we believe. We are kind of questioning our views, our beliefs, where we stand, what our truth is in some area of our life, maybe in many areas of our lives. It's like we are looking for what we believe and value and what our truth is in this massive time of change and uncertainty. And if that's you, if you've recently went through a shakeup, or maybe if things have been good, but they're starting to feel a little bit intense, this could definitely be why. We are coming up against a lot of duality right now. And duality is not a bad thing, okay? It doesn't have to be a bad thing. And that's what I really want to break down for you in this video. So if that's relating to you right now, then definitely stay tuned, sit back, grab a drink, get comfy, and let's talk about the week ahead as I pull up my beautiful chart on the screen. Alrighty, my loves, you should be able to see my chart on the screen now. So first things first, I kind of want to talk about the time that we've been in, because I didn't get to do a weekly horoscope last week. I actually went out of town. I had planned to do one, but things got very chaotic and it just worked out where I couldn't do one. I could only get to the Sag full moon video. But we're coming out of a Mars-Uranus square, which I didn't get to talk about last week. Of course, that happened last week, but it's fine. Where what we wanted, or our expectations, or our self-will, our plans may have been disrupted, or we may have ran up against a curveball or a plot twist, or, kind of one of those moments where something unexpected or uncertain really kind of shakes everything up in our lives to some degree. For me, that was this long anticipated music festival that I had been waiting to go to for months, that, I go to every year, pretty much being canceled 2 days in. And so it was heart-wrenching for me. But either way, we are coming out of this time of uncertainty. We've been having the Jupiter-Saturn square. Like I said, we're going to talk a little bit more about that in today's video as well, because even though we're starting to come out of the tail end of that, we're still in it. And so, like I said, we're coming up against a lot of duality. We are in the midst of duality, and we are in a season of contemplation. But the thing is that these are the times where we find our truth and who we are the most. If the main character in a movie never gets challenged, if everything is just perfect and they just, do the same thing every day, there's no duality within their lives. They're not growing, they're not evolving, and that is why duality exists. That we live in a planet of duality, light and dark, right? Cats and dogs, inhaling, exhaling, black and white. There's, for one thing to exist, so must the opposite. And I find that when we are faced with duality, when we are in the midst of duality, we end up finding who we are in those times. We end up finding who we are in those experiences, because in those experiences, the challenging things happening right along with maybe some good things can cause us to learn how to hold both the challenging and the positive, the good and the bad, basically. It teaches us to stretch our energetic capacity to be able to hold the things that feel really heavy, along with like those small moments of gratitude or surrender or emotional release, and then feeling a relief because we just like cried and now we feel this sense of like, oh. And so like what I mean by this is like, even though the festival was canceled and everybody there was just so bummed out about it. I literally ended up crying. I just let my emotions out that night. Even though that was happening, I decided to make the best of that night. I knew that was going to be our last night there. And I was like, I have to make the best of this night. Yes, I didn't, plan for this to be my last night. I planned for like, 3 more nights, but like, at least I can make this last night my best, and we did that. We hung out with so many new people and met so many awesome, amazing souls, and really allowed it to be an experience. And so even though, yes, I would have so much rather had the rest of the festival, and so the bad could have easily outweighed the good, I still tried to look for those small moments, even though they were hard. And don't get me wrong, I was still very crushed after the fact, and kind of have been a little bit in like a down mood since I've been back. But at the end of the day, I know that, I have the rest of my life to experience moments like I expected to experience. Okay. And so basically, this is what I mean by duality. Like, we may have something really heavy happening and like small moments of gratitude or surrender or relief or, whatever happening as well, happiness, peace, or we may have a lot of really amazing things happening, a lot of magical things happening, but then we also have moments of uncertainty or fear or, things not going our way. And it's really a matter of how you balance all this, how you hold this, and allowing yourself to hold both sides and, be present with both sides. Because in duality, we find out who we really are. We find out our truth. We find out what we really believe. If somebody is talking to us or disagrees with something that we're saying, we listen to them with an open heart and an open mind, we either find that we agree with some of what they say or we disagree with some of what they say, and either way is fine. It doesn't make one person wrong and us right, or them right and us wrong. It's more so, again, that duality shows us our truth, our deeper truths. And with us being in the season of contemplation, because Jupiter is involved, Neptune is involved, Saturn's involved, there's so much here with our like higher beliefs and higher karmic lessons and, everything kind of just in this crazy contemplation right now, where we are contemplating what's best for our own evolution, where we are contemplating what our truth is, what our perception is, what we believe. We're contemplating our own emotional and evolutionary well-being, even, especially with the sun moving into Cancer and Jupiter being in Cancer now. And so we're kind of like recontemplating what we believe, our views, our understanding of everything, our truths, our attachments, our fears, what's holding us back, where our faith is. What is our faith anymore? Do we have faith? We're contemplating all of these like really big things, as there are really big things happening in the energetic field right now, in the collective right now. And so these events are setting the stage, though, for us to find our own truths, to challenge ourselves, and so that we can step into a new era in our lives, because all of these events, Saturn, Neptune, and Aries, Uranus getting ready to move into Gemini, Jupiter and Cancer, a new era is starting with all of these massive planetary shifts happening this year. Okay, so I wanted to kind of start with that. We're going to connect everything I just said all throughout this horoscope. So just kind of pay attention, because everything's going to kind of connect like a puzzle as I move through everything. Okay, so let's start with the 17th, which is the day that I'm filming this, because I'm a day late. I got back like literally really late at night the day before, and I was like so tired yesterday. Like my body was just like, we need rest. So we gave her rest. But anyways, on the 17th, Mars moves into the sign of Virgo. Now it will be joining the same sign as the South Node. And so this is really crucial. First, let's talk about Mars and Virgo. Okay. Virgo as a sign is an earthly sign. It is about really dealing with the earthly material realm, the physical realm. How do things work? If I take this apart, put it back together again, what's it do? If I remove this part, if I organize this, if I put this here, what happens? And so with Mars moving into Virgo, an earth sign, number one, we are really anchoring back into reality. We are really grounding back into the small practical things. I want you to kind of think of like Mars and Leo as like a party, okay? Like we've been kind of having a party and just wanting to have fun and follow our hearts and be bold and courageous and authentic and stand up for ourselves and be confident and feel good and feel like we are inspired and creative and happy. Mars in Virgo is very, very different. So if Mars and Leo is the party, Mars and Virgo is kind of like the cleanup, right? And this is kind of perfect with this whole festival analogy I've been using that I went through last week, but like coming back home from a music festival and it's like, oh, I've got to unpack. The house is a mess. Got errands to run. I feel all over the place. I feel so unanchored, like mentally and emotionally. I feel like I got to get back on this schedule. I got things to do. I got appointments this week. Very Mars in Virgo, right? But this isn't necessarily a bad thing. So I don't want it to come across like I'm like bitching and complaining about it, although it did feel a little bit overwhelming at first. But grounding in these small things and using these small things, routines, schedules, projects, these things that you've got to do on a day-to-day basis to keep up with your life or to help your life run more efficiently can also be very healthy. Okay, so I want you to think about Mars and Virgo as using these small things or rearranging some of the systems and the small earthly practical things that you have to do in your life to ground you. Right? If things aren't running super efficiently, if you feel a little bit disconnected or you feel a little bit untethered or you feel a little bit unanchored, this is literally perfect for this. This is like, okay, where do I need to kind of tweak my schedule? Where do I need to schedule in some self-care or some grounding or getting in nature more or focusing more on my health or walking or whatever the case may be to help my life and myself run more smoothly. It's like putting things in place so that you can feel like you are, so that you are improving, like, your sense of direction, your sense of grounding, your sense of self, your sense of everything, really. It's like the small things can make the biggest difference. Work smarter, not harder right now. You're going to come across a lot of situations that need to be tinkered with. You're going to come across a lot of things going on, whether in your work or your schedules or, your home life or whatever, wherever you have Virgo in your chart, that it's like, okay, if I just kind of change this one small little thing, everything kind of runs more efficiently after that. Or like, and you'll be surprised because it's like the small things can give you really big results around this time. And so it's like, how can I help myself if you are feeling unanchored or if you are feeling unorganized or all over the place? How can you help yourself come back into some kind of organization, some kind of, anchoring? Okay. And so, Virgo is also very much about kind of our morals and our values as well. So it's like, where are we out of alignment with our values? Where have we not been doing the physical things that align with our values in our day-to-day life or align with our morals? Virgo's got this big thing about purity, being pure are the things that you're doing, which is why like moving things around to make things run more efficiently, or your digestive system. Virgo rules the digestive system, which really is about sorting things, organizing things, what goes, what stays, right? Virgo is the sign that falls right before the fall. So it's like what crops are going, what crops are staying, like everything, this is so much about organizing our lives to run more efficiently. And with Mars here, this is going to really be the name of the game. How can we take action more efficiently? How can we do things in a more efficient way? What changes can we make? What small tweaks can we make to make this better, to get the most out of this situation? Okay, and so this is what this is really about. Where you put in energy as well, like getting really discerning and picky about, am I putting my energy towards things and it's not getting me anywhere? Am I wasting a lot of energy on things that I don't even care about, or that things that don't even matter, or habits, or, whatever, that are really kind of just holding me back? Do I have healthy habits? Am I happy with my habits? Or am I happy with how my values are aligning with my actions and my morals? Like, these are kind of the Mars and Virgo topics that are really going to be brought up. Where are you putting your energy? Again, work smarter, not harder. Be discerning. Now, once it gets more closer to the South Node, and we'll definitely come back to this and revisit this then, but some of the things that I know that this is likely going to bring up as somebody with Jupiter and Venus in Virgo, some of the things that I know this is likely going to bring up are places that we are too attached or holding on to control too tight, where we are basically, running the show, I just realized that light was like super dim, but basically where we are kind of trampling over other people or trampling over situations to kind of be in charge or control something, or get really neurotic or, obsessive about something that is really out of our control. So there's been a lot to do with the South Node in Virgo, North Node in Pisces, that's had a lot to do with releasing the things that you cannot control and having faith, right? Mars in Virgo wants to take over your party and make sure all the details are done for you because you're not doing it good enough, right? Make sure that the flowers are right and the plates are right and the food is right and the artist is right and the entertainment is right and the guest list is done and the invitations are sent out and like all of that. Like Mars in Virgo is that kind of energy, and it's like we've got to really look at where we are doing this to other people in our lives as well, where we are just like, oh, I can do it better, I can do it more efficiently, so I'll just do it, do it for you. And then getting stressed out because they don't appreciate us, they don't recognize us, they don't see us, then they don't ever end up doing it and they just start expecting us to do it. And it's like, this is kind of the Virgo dilemma of like always kind of getting in the way and then wondering why you're so stressed out. And it's like, let people like trust in other people's power to do their own shit, right? To take care of their own things. And if they don't do it the way that you would do it or the way that you would prefer to do it or, whatever, then it doesn't mean that you've got to completely take it over and do it for them. Okay. And the other part about this is getting very, very judgmental and being very, very picky in terms of ourselves and in terms of others, like just being overly judgmental. Like Virgo can criticize and judge others, yes, because it does have that kind of purity complex where it's like, it likes things to be pure, and as soon as it sees something is not pure, it can, again, the fix-it energy comes in, and that can sometimes look like judgment, like harsh criticism and judgment. So we also have to be very aware of this now that Mars is in Virgo, because it may be very, very easy to judge ourselves over small things and beat up on ourselves over small things, or others too harshly over small things. And, the thing with that as well is, when we kind of get into that, it's usually we have this, and I think this is where the South Node really comes in here. It's like nothing is ever good enough if it's not perfect. And I know this as a Venus in Virgo, like, I won't eat certain foods unless like they have a certain sauce with them, like my preference of sauce or my preference of, like clothes have to be a certain way. Like I have a preference of clothes, and I'm very picky about beauty related things and Venusian things as well. And I have to, I kind of went back and forth with it. Part of me is like, I feel like I should voice like, what I desire and shouldn't hold it in, because for a long time I used to kind of hold it in. My screen went away. For a long time, I used to kind of hold it in, and I, kind of decided not to do that anymore. And so, but I also have to be careful because it still can go to an extreme where it's like, nothing is good enough unless it's this way. And that's when we've like really missed the mark. It's like, oh, I can't find anything that's good about this, or I can't, I just, not everything sucks. And unless it's the exact way I want it, because we have some kind of attachment to, needing it a certain way or only wanting it if it's this, this, and this. And that's where we kind of have to catch ourselves, like going to extremes and all of that. Right. So, and then with Virgo as well, and with the South Node sharing the same sign, even though Mars is still quite a bit away from the South Node, this is still something with it being in the shared sign I think we're going to see throughout the whole Mars transit in Virgo. But this attachment to seeing ourselves as deficient and therefore constantly needing to fix, overdo, take on more stress, take on more work, take on more projects, take on more, like, we've got to be careful of that because that can be very draining. Okay. And that's another kind of, karmic side of Virgo that we just want to be kind of aware of going into this. So those are some of the things I would watch out for. Obviously there's a lot more, but I just wanted to address Mars and Virgo a little bit more in depth because that is a finally new shift that we have not had. Mars has been in either Cancer or Leo all freaking year since like last year. So this is a really big deal. Mars finally moving into Virgo is definitely a vibe shift, and we're going to start kind of feeling like we want to get our shit together, but we also need to release control of the things that we don't have control of, and we also don't need to judge ourselves too harshly for small, simple errors or mistakes, or criticize ourselves too much just because our shit isn't together perfectly all the time, right? So keep that in mind. Allow yourself to be human. Okay, so moving on to the next day, the 18th, which I believe is a Wednesday. So this is one of the bigger transits as well this year. And, mid-years, Jupiter now is squaring Neptune after it is finally coming out of its square with Saturn that it's been in. Now, all of these have been pretty much squaring the whole time. They're literally only like a degree, they've only been like a degree apart. So we've been feeling this in some way or another already the last few weeks, but I will talk a little bit more about, just Jupiter and Neptune here. But previously we had, we've been kind of pulled between the Saturn and Jupiter square, right? Like Jupiter's expansion and growth and, especially in Cancer in terms of compassion and caring and, all of that, security, safety, family. Saturn is, structure and enforcing structure, rules, barriers, etc. And I think we've seen, a lot of that in the world. And I'm not here to necessarily talk about that. I'm not like a worldly astrologer, although you can take a lot of what I say and apply it to the world. But I find that my gifts are more best used and more veered towards helping people individually transform and evolve and find themselves and learn about themselves. And I feel like that is the way that I make the biggest difference. And that's just what I've learned over time. And so anyway, but there's been kind of this push and pull between openness, Jupiter, and closeness, however you want to say it, restriction and expansion. Again, this kind of push and pull. And we've been feeling this somewhere in our lives. Okay, so this isn't, we've been all feeling this on like an individual level, and then it's been also on a macro level. But there's this call for all of us, I think in some way or another, with Neptune and Saturn in Aries, to evolve through restriction. And because these times and these questions, these changes and these conversations and these contemplations that get brought up during intense times like this, where there are certain things, being done, and then there, how do we grow through those things, right? And it's like one does not necessarily have to take away from the other. They can both actually work together. And I think that if we start viewing it that way in our own individual lives, if we start looking at how do I evolve my understanding, how do I evolve myself through the challenges that I'm facing in my lives, or through some of the things that I can't control, or through some of the heaviness that I'm feeling, or the heaviness that I'm going through, or, whatever. I mean, yeah, sure, if you don't want to, because I feel like some people, I don't know, maybe not, maybe it's my own projection, but I feel like some people could be listening to this and depending on what they're going through, take this to the extreme, take this to the extreme and basically be like, how am I supposed to evolve through X, Y, Z? And it's like, yeah, okay, if you want to look at it as like, you're never going to evolve through this sucks, life sucks, the universe sucks, everything is crashing down on you, like there's no possible good that can come from this, like that is on you. But again, Jupiter is all about our beliefs, our higher views. Neptune, similar, our faith. Can we have faith even in the face of challenge, even in the face of things that are maybe beyond our control, or setbacks, delays, challenges, things that feel very consequential, or whatever the case may be, things that even feel punishing, like whatever that feeling is for you, whatever that Saturnian feeling is bringing up for you, it's like we can choose to move, like literally, like, with the things that we're powerless over, for instance, like especially the things that you're powerless over. And that's what I'm talking about. Obviously, if you have the power to do something about it, great. But if you don't, if whatever is happening in your life, or whatever it is that you're going through feels like it's coming from outside of you, and there's not something that you can necessarily do about it, you can control how you allow it to basically make an impact on your life. And if you want that impact to be, and that story of that impact to be, this thing came out of nowhere, it impacted me, and I gave up, and I got mad, and I became resentful, and I took it out on everybody else, and I hate everybody and everything, and yada, 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 then that's okay. But usually what we find with Jupiter does rule our kind of higher views, our contemplations on life, our philosophies on life, and the things that we're moving through, our sense of feeling like there's a higher plan, or higher purpose, or a higher perspective. Like there is some kind of universal orchestra where it's all, kind of playing out. And when we are really tapped into that magic, we can feel that, even though it's like an inner knowing that begins to happen, not from reading books, not from because someone told us, not because we went and did a bunch of things to gain it, but no, mainly because of something spiritual, something otherworldly, something bigger that feels bigger than ourselves, something that comes from inside of us. And when we are connected to that, we feel better in our lives. It actually benefits us to have that higher belief, to have that higher perspective, to decide to rewrite the story, because we are the ones writing the story at any given point. Yeah, you may not be able to control all the things that you experience in your life, but you're the one that does control the story, because you can be walking down the road and someone basically accidentally trips you, or which would just be like the fact of it, right? Or you can be walking down the road and somebody trips you and it ruins your day, and how dare they, and they probably did it on purpose, and they probably had something against me, and everybody does this to me, and like, yeah, all of this stuff. Or it's like I'm walking around the road, somebody walked by, they accidentally tripped me, I had no idea who they were, probably wasn't personal. I don't have to let that ruin my day. And in fact, oh my gosh, through me tripping and falling and not hurting myself, I was actually so grateful. And then I had this like revelation, that this moment of clarity, as I was like getting up after being, after like almost tripping and falling, and I had this moment of clarity, and I was like, the other person said sorry and they helped me up. And I was just like, wow, like, I had this moment of clarity about this one time when I was like a child and this happened, and and how much has changed since then, and like, I don't know, right? Like, you get what I mean. But it's like, you create the story, the perception around it. Like, it can just be the facts of what happened to you, or it can be a story of how it ruined your life, and you decided to allow it to completely just take over your life and be the reason that you can't ever do anything right. Or it can be like, wow, I actually am choosing to reshape this experience and see it differently. And this is what kind of Jupiter does. So when Jupiter squares Neptune this week, I feel like we are kind of questioning our understanding. We are questioning our, potentially even our way of viewing things, our perception. The curtain may be pulled back many moments this week for many of us because of some of these transits, where we really see, like, we really have a chance to kind of like either allow our beliefs to be tested and allow ourselves to crumble, or allow our beliefs and our perception and our faith to be tested and move through the test to up level, to reach a higher evolution of who we are. And so I think that, it's up to us though. And so evolving our perception of reality, by seeing potentially like what we are avoiding, like could be very much this Jupiter Neptune square, like what we are avoiding, what we ignore, what we have, attachments to that we're kind of, not wanting to let go of, or wanting to avoid, or allowing our attachments to kind of run the show, or wearing rose-colored glasses and kind of not wanting to look, or wanting to kind of bypass or ignore things that are part of our genuine truth. And so I think that this is kind of a revisioning for a lot of people. It's like the vision that we once had of maybe certain things that we wanted, or certain things that we thought, or certain things that we believed, or certain, destinations we were trying to reach, or certain, perceptions that we had. It's like, this is all up for question now. This is all up for revision now. Do we still feel the same way? How are we with our principles, our morals, our beliefs, our views? Are we in alignment with those? Or have we kind of lost ourselves? Have we kind of lost ourselves and triggers, or the imagination of maybe other people's imagined fears, or our own imagined fears of the worst case scenario, et cetera, et cetera. And so this is really a chance and opportunity for us to contemplate how we're perceiving our reality right now. To contemplate if the things that we're doing, the things that we're believing, the ways that we're perceiving things, the stories that we're telling ourselves, the beliefs that we have, are making our lives better and are helping us evolve and evolve as spiritual beings and human bodies here on this earth, or if they are leading us to a sense of confusion. They're leading us to a sense of blind hatred, righteousness, just fear, imagined worst case scenarios and paranoia, conflicts, hatred, resentment, etc. Because I think that when we can rise above these things and do the work within ourselves, then we find our truths. And so I think that, this transit could also bring up where we kind of overindulge, addictions, where we, have, again, kind of had a vision that maybe we no longer resonate with, or maybe need some revisioning, or maybe we have certain beliefs that we haven't even really been aligned with, or really that we haven't had faith in our beliefs, or we've abandoned our faith because of, things that felt impulsive or intense in the moment, things that kind of shifted us out of our own sense of truth and power and our own sense of morals and values. And so it's really about kind of all of that. Like, that is what I really feel this Jupiter-Neptune square is about. It's also kind of, I wrote down, a chance to reevaluate our imaginations. Our imaginations and how our imaginations are driving us. Is this helping us? What are we imagining? And have we kind of tricked ourselves into believing something that is not really in alignment with us anymore, or that has been helping us bypass a fear that we finally need to face that's going to help us grow and challenge us? Or have we tricked ourselves into imagining a worst case scenario and becoming obsessed with it, and becoming obsessed with carrying that on our shoulders? And so therefore we have completely lost our sense of compassion and love, and seeing the brighter side, seeing the light. It could go either way. And so I think that the passion of our own righteousness, or our own faith, or our own perception of reality, versus compassion, openness, attachment, security with Jupiter and Cancer. So again, I think that this really can be helpful if we can see the positive side of challenge, and not just look at it as it's only positive, or I'm up for the challenge, or I can see the positive side of challenge, but only if, right, when we have some attachment to something else, only if it goes this way, only if, if other people agree with me, only if, I don't get kickback for it, only if, I'm agreed with, it's basically like that. I'll accept this, and I'll go after, and I'll allow myself I'll challenge myself and do it only if I'm comfortable. And it's like, that's not necessarily how it works. And I think that's the dilemma that some really may be facing right now with these Aries placements and Cancer placements. It's like, we want to challenge ourselves. We're passionate about our sense of perception, views, dreams, etc., and the way our own imaginations and the way that we envision our lives, but only if we're comfortable, only if we always feel safe, only if XYZ. And so I think these are a lot of the things that are coming up. And speaking of that, that kind of moves us into the 20th, which I believe is on Friday. And on Friday, the sun moves into the sign of Cancer. Like, almost forgot the chart was even up here. I lost it again for a minute there. But okay, so the sun moves out of Gemini and into Cancer. And basically, we are at the summer solstice. We are already at the summer solstice this year, which is crazy. Halfway through this year already. It is insane how fast this year is flying by. So this is a really powerful energy, moving into summer. We are moving into a new season. We are moving into a new kind of era, a phase of this year as well, with Mars now in Virgo, Jupiter now in Cancer, Uranus getting ready to move in Gemini. We've gotten a taste of this Saturn-Neptune conjunction in Aries. And so with the sun now moving into Cancer, this is going to be very, very huge on shining a spotlight, putting our awareness to our emotions, our internal worlds, where we feel good and aligned and clear on the inside, where we feel emotionally, in sync on the inside. It's going to really be about our emotions, our internal sense of security, our sense of self-care and taking care of ourselves and those that we love, compassion, honoring your own inner world. And, but there's also this kind of, you know, kind of thing here where as the sun moves into Cancer, it's going to then start squaring Neptune and Saturn and Aries, as well as it's also moving up to Jupiter. So with, the sun being now in the sign of the mother, a lunar sign ruled by the moon, and us being very, very now connected to our emotions and all of that, there may be many people that need a sense, or that need some time to reflect, that need some time to self-reflect, that need to take a pause, to go inward, to feel things, and not allow yourself to just get super triggered by everything to where you are literally existing as a reaction to triggers all the time. And with the sun moving into Cancer, I think that this is going to be a time where there is a lot of internal reflection on, and a lot of awareness and clarity surrounding what this Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune square has been about, as the sun's about to go through the same journey Jupiter just did, and then conjunct Jupiter. So we are literally kind of waking up to where we have felt this push and pull in our lives somewhere, because, this is happening for each of us in our charts somewhere. And so I really think as the sun, it's like on Sunday on the 22nd, when the sun is going to actually start squaring Saturn. But we're going to feel it pretty much probably from the 20th until early days next week. But either way, we are definitely going, like, this definitely looks like a very big moment of facing something, becoming very, very aware of something, kind of like a wake-up call, disillusionment, coming up against this hard, challenging block, limit, consequence, thing, this intense struggle or challenge or discomfort going on, that we must confront. And again, feeling this push and pull between, taking action and being assertive and, kind of facing challenge versus being empathetic and emotional and compassion and, feeling safe, emotional, feeling secure. The mother archetype, the family. And so, emotional bonds, the home front. And what this really kind of reminded me of, as we kind of start feeling this weekend, as we start feeling this sense of, I want to evolve, or I want to expand, or maybe the only way that we evolve and expand is by facing these hardships, or facing these limits, or facing these perceived blocks, and then maybe even realizing with Neptune there and Jupiter there, and that maybe they aren't what they appeared to be, or they aren't what we had originally perceived them as in some way, shape, or form. And something that really came to me about this is, like, sometimes you're pushed to the very edge of what you thought you could handle to show that you can handle so much more. And another version of that really came through was, sometimes you're pushed to the very edge of what you thought you believed. And then it all kind of starts breaking apart to show you that this belief was not accurate. And that is also something that I kind of see here. It's like the way that we envisioned something, our expectations are being kind of tested right now. And if we allow ourselves to expand through this, to find our truth, to go internally, to feel our feelings, to be present with our own feelings about it, ride the waves, trust in our intuitions, then I think that we evolve through this. But if we get so caught up in our triggers and our resentment and our emotions, and, we aren't allowing ourselves to really sit with them or honor them or be aware of them, and we're existing as some kind of reaction, and we just blow up over it and then cause more drama and chaos in our lives, then we're just kind of repeating the same energy. And so my biggest kind of takeaway for you this week is that things are very uncertain right now. That's okay. There's a lot of tests that we're coming up against. So if you're feeling kind of pressured, or if you've had to pivot somewhere in your life, or if something changed that you once thought was going in one direction, now it's going in another direction, if you're feeling, kind of cornered, or you're just feeling the intensity or pressure, or if things are kind of shifting a bit, again, it's okay. Nothing is completely certain right now. I think, again, this is a era, a season, I should say, a time of contemplation, re-envisioning, reimagining, questioning our beliefs, questioning our truths, questioning our perceptions, questioning the stories that we tell ourselves and the limits that we may have placed on ourselves, or the what we think other people think or other people are saying or whatever. Right now is a time to listen to our own truth. Again, go within. And it's okay if things feel uncertain. It's okay if you feel like things are a bit up in the air right now, or if you're kind of questioning some things in your life, or feeling like, oh, I need to go back to the drawing board on this. I really thought that I was going in this direction, but now I'm not. Or let me kind of recontemplate this, or what do I even believe anymore? Like, this is very normal right now. So again, this is a season of contemplation of our beliefs, our understanding of certain things in our lives, our perception, our truths, our attachments, what we actually care about. And I think that through all of this, there's an upgrade available to us, an evolution, another level. And I think if we get lost in making our journey, bad or wrong, we're looking for, someone to point the finger at, or something to point the finger at, something to blame. It's like it almost distracts us from the internal evolution that it can happen here if you allow it. If you look at these challenges and you look at these kind of these kind of pushes, these nudges, or this pressure that you may be feeling, as it introducing you to more of yourself, or it expanding your capacity to hold more, to deal with more, to find what you truly care about, to find what you truly love, to find who you are in all of this, to find your truth, to find your heart. And so, that is basically what I'm seeing this week. I think that, the other thing to remember, like I said, with Mars and Virgo now, we've got to watch that we're not like getting overly critical or nitpicky of ourselves and others and all of that. Understanding where we have these attachments to needing to be in control and arrange everything in a certain way. And, I think that it's okay if you're feeling a bit like, confused right now, or if you're the way that you saw your life going, or the way that you saw the world, or the way that you saw things, or the way that you saw your job, or the way that you saw yourself, or the way that you saw, your spirituality, or like whatever is kind of under reconstruction right now. It's okay. And it's like everything needs to change and get altered at some point for it to evolve. Like, just like if you go in to renovate a building, you've got to kind of get rid of some of the old stuff. Again, organization, sorting out, what do you want to keep? What do you want to get rid of? What do you want to change? What do you want to stay the same? And that's what we're really doing right now in many places in our lives, and more places than one. This may not be happening just in one place. This could be happening all over for you, like your relationships, your life in general, your purpose, your job, your career, everything, right? But this is how we find ourselves in these times of reconstruction. This is how we reshape our lives, ourselves, our beliefs, our values, our perspectives, our views, our understanding of our lives and reality, and etc., by these moments, these crucial moments. And I think that if we don't label anything as like, this part of me is bad, or this part of me is good, or this over here is bad and this is good, if we stay open and don't get too judgy too quickly, because I think in today's world, it's like there's not a lot of space for people. There's not a lot of room for people to be like more than one thing. Like, everyone wants to put you in a box. If you believe this, you're this. If you think that, you're that. If you dress like this, you're this. If you can't think that and think that. You can't like that and like that. No, if you're pro this, then you must be anti this. And that's not true. We're human beings. We're literally multidimensional. And so you don't have to be on, one end or the other all the time. It's not like a constant binary thing of spectrums, of extremes. It's way more nuanced than that. That's like super black and white, you know? And so I think, but we can kind of internalize that and think like, oh, you know, I thought because I was an astrologer that I needed to only do astrology all the time or only talk about the astrology or fit in this box of what I thought an astrologer looked like and what I thought people expected of me. And, like, no, screw that. That's what I've personally always represented is this, form of multidimensionality, the beauty of changing, of evolving, of growing and pivoting with every new version of yourself and honoring every version of yourself. Learning how to love this current version of you in a time of uncertainty and reconstruction and all of that. And so I'd love to know down below if you're still with me, comment badass alien, and please, please, please give me your feedback. I really, I want to hear it from your heart if this really landed with you. If I said anything in here, even if it was just one small thing that you really needed to hear, what was it? Let me know down below. Let me know what it was, why it related. If there was multiple things that really hit you, let me know down below. It really means the world to me. Like, those are my favorite comments when I see people just really telling me how much it clicked for them. And it really just makes all of this worth it. And so anyways, thank you guys. For those of you that are still here, that are still watching my videos, I really appreciate you guys for sticking with me through the last few weeks. It's been a very busy, hectic few weeks. I had my grandmother in town and then I went on vacation and then that got cut short. And so it's been really hard to kind of keep with my normal, the normal videos I was pumping out because I was really going through kind of like a slow but fun season there, like beforehand. And so I was able to kind of pump out way more videos because I didn't have too much going on for a while. And so, but then everything just got really busy for a couple weeks and I probably should have prepared a little bit earlier than, than I had planned to, but it's fine. So thank you for sticking with me through all of that and staying here. I really appreciate you guys and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.